Hi, welcome to the Sharii Kazowie Art Show with your host, Sharii Kazowie. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the principle of movement in art. Here's an example of a drawing that shows a lot of movement in the lines. Another thing we're going to do is interview Gwen Strahan, and she's going to do an art demonstration on encaustic art. That's where you take a lot of wax and you build up layers of wax in a painting.
So now I am completely into encaustic painting, and that's painting in wax. And it's, if you will remember the Fayum portraits, they were the paintings on the mummy cases, and that was wax painting. And encaustic means enkaustikos in Greek, which is burning, heating and burning. And each process that you go through with encaustic, you're heating and burning. And I'll show you the process. I use a torch and I use a heat gun. The wax that I use is beeswax, and I work with birch panels. They're made by a local artist, and they're just absolutely beautiful panels. But I can order them in any size, which I do, and this is for a series that I'll be working on, a water series, and I'll show you one of the pieces. Okay, this is part of the water series, the beginning. I'll be working on this particular series, and I have 6 other panels to make. Okay, here's what I work with when I'm working with encaustic. For instance, this is an 8-ply panel. I've already waxed this panel with like 2 to 3 coats of wax. Okay, I'm going to show you some different techniques, things that I use in the process, and I'll use this as a sample sheet. For instance, I use what Lyra colors, which are very nice colors that you can use to mark on cold wax, but the wax must be cold. As you can see, it just makes for a nice surface for it. But once this is on here, as with anything with wax, it has to be fused. And I'll show you the fusing process. And now I'll burnish a piece of paper on here so you can see what happens when you burnish. I do this often. Burnishing is necessary to push it into the wax before you heat it. And for example, you can overlay many layers of papers or whatever it is you want to put on here. I use old tea bags, you name it. For instance, this is an old tea bag. I could layer that on there. Just nice little colors. You know, you make a collage or you make some type of form. Normally I like to give it more of an Asian flair, which tends to lend itself to this type of work. So as you can see,
and that doesn't set the paper on fire?
No, you try not to do that.
Okay.
Preferable not to set the paper on fire. Not that I haven't done it, because I have, but it's usually on the edges where you have your problem. But once you fuse it back into the wax, and you can see there's kind of you can see when it gets into the wax. Actually, pigmented wax. And you put them on a hot plate, heat them up to about 225 degrees. And for instance, this is a nice, beautiful color. This is called indigo. This one is one of my all-time favorites, and I think I'm going to order a case of it next time. I just love this stuff. Isn't that gorgeous? But you can move it around and then add more to it and move it around, and then you have colors that bleed through the colors on top. And it gives you just some really gorgeous designs. As you can see this, look, see how it's moving? See, I can move this, I can make holes in it, I can make it look really weird and different. So you can see you just kind of become a little bit of a mad scientist when you're working on this. It's just too much fun. And we're going to come back over it with some wax medium. Each one of these has to have wax medium over it. Anyway, see, it's fusing into the first layer of wax. Then we'll go back over it again, let that cool, Then I'll take another layer of wax over it, and that's how I build up to those many, many layers of wax. So I think what we're going to do this time is we're going to add some papers. We'll burnish in some papers over the top of this colored wax. Oh yeah, it's still warm enough that it's going to take it reasonably well. Oh, let's do something different. Just put some symbols on here. How about that? And then everything that's underneath is going to show up. But you can see how the wax comes through. You see the color coming through. So you see how over time you can build up so many different things that happen and so many different layers. This one's going to be very interesting. Let's go through here and add different colors going one direction, and then we'll go back the opposite direction. What happens when you heat all these layers together is you end up with, as they describe in the Encaustic book by Joan Matera, you end up with one big ball of wax. It's really just one solid piece of wax. And you end up with wax everywhere. It's on the floor, it's on your clothes. So here we go, it's melted into that layer. Okay, I wanted to show you some of the things that I use in my encaustic, and I wanted to mention artists are the greatest recyclers in the world because I save everything. These happen to be torn up pieces of paintings. I will place those in a piece of encaustic. These are all torn up pieces of papers that I've saved over time. This entire box is full of papers. This one's full of leaves. I save leaves and press them so that I can use them. If I want to use them in encaustic, I can, and I do. This one's full of just little junky things that I find, like the wrapper off a Dom Perignon bottle. Yahoo! I wish I had the bottle. And put a little bit more on this time so that we have more of this bright red color to be showing through when we start gouging out some colors. Okay, now I'm going to cover this with clear wax medium, and I'll show you what happens. See how the colors start lightening up? It's going to get much lighter. I try to make it as smooth as possible unless I'm looking for texture. Add more layers of clear wax and then fuse it, and then more layers of clear wax and fuse it, and then take a look at it and let it cool overnight.
Okay, so this seems like the process of encaustic work takes a really, really long time, and you should have a lot of patience if you're going to go into this field. Do you agree?
Encaustic teaches you patience.